I'm the chief entrepreneur, so primarily my role at IndieBio, having been an entrepreneur many times, is to share my knowledge at different levels to make sure that IndieBio is growing and helping the bio movement everywhere. So my research history, I got a degree in chemical engineering at the University of Wisconsin. I then did 3 years of bacteriology research with Tim Donahue. I then moved to the University of California, San Francisco, where I did 3 years of research on protein function in Murray in the pharmaceutical chemistry department. And I realized that as much as I liked academia, I wanted to make more money than just paying my rent. So I sold out and went corporate, which I'm very happy about. So since the first company, I've been at 5 different startups. I have been a founder or an early employee at all of these companies. 3 of the companies have had successful exits, meaning 2 were sold, and 1 went IPO this February. And then my last company, FalkowskiBio, is still ongoing, but I'm putting it on hold while I do IndieBio because I saw what IndieBio was doing and realized how much that could help other companies, and I'm pretty excited about that. So if you see here, two of the companies, True Materials and Vitae, I have the words QB3 next to them. And the reason why is these companies were started in an incubator at UCSF in San Francisco. The first company I started at, Parallel, was kind of before biotech changed. And what I noticed was that to start a biotech company in 2000, you needed $1 million at least. You needed to build your own lab, build your own lab space. There were no shared equipment, no shared spaces. It was either get $1 million or you can't start a company. And so what happened is, as I've kind of gone through this process, I've seen this change, and I've seen how valuable it is to give researchers and anyone the opportunity to start a company. So I guess I just kind of said that. The options for starting a company have improved over the 15 years I've been in biotech. So what the QB3 garage at UCSF started out as just 4 companies. I was one of the first 4 companies in that garage, one of the first successful companies out of there. So that has now grown to over 80 companies. They've opened up 3 different lab spaces. Every time they open up a new lab space, they're worried that they won't fill up the lab space. And within 6 months, it's at full occupancy, and there's a wait list. People can't even get into this incubator. And when they started it 9 years ago, they were worried that they wouldn't have enough companies. But when you create an opportunity for people that's at a reasonable cost and supported by the university, people will start ideas. It just happens. So the key thing that's been successful to this incubator has been joint supplies and shared equipment. From the beginning of it, you were able to very low fees rent space in a -80 or have access to an autoclave. Very basic equipment, but if you had to buy all that equipment, once again, it would take millions of dollars to start a company. But if you could share all of that equipment between multiple companies, the cost became very realistic for raising money from friends, families, investors, or small research grants. As this program has evolved, they've gotten more complicated. That incubator now also invests. So direct venture capital firms are investing in these companies as they join the incubator. So these companies are seeing more and more access to that, as well as there's groups of lawyers, accountants, all the other support tasks that these early companies can get. So most people coming from university do not have a lot of experience in accounting or legal. That's just typical. But if you have an environment where you can meet those people without having to hire them or pay them, or just giving them small amounts of stock, you can save your company money and learn valuable lessons from people who've already done this before. So the landscape for innovation, I believe, includes a lot of different things. Manuel already talked about the biohacking space, such as BioCurious. I think the most important part of biohacking to extent is meeting. Even if you're just meeting at a restaurant, talking to other people with like-minded ideas helps you develop your ideas and develop the community. There might be people who have expertise, or a friend, or know an investor, or know someone at a company, and just meeting regularly with people who are interested in innovation will create connections that you didn't know about. The second phase is incubators, like I talked about, QE3. You need options where people can rent a bench for 1 month, take a risk with some money money they've saved to try an idea. This is especially good for serial entrepreneurs because most of the time they just need that access to a space and they already know how to start a company. You then have accelerators. So IndieBio falls in the category of accelerators, which most of our people that join our class are directly from academia. They've never started a company before. So to help them start a company, we give them a lot of support in terms of how to start a company, what you need to do, how to make a business plan, a lot of basics. So accelerators provide an opportunity to very quickly take you from an academic setting or an idea and turn that into a real business and grow your capital. And then lab space. Lab space has always been available, but it's a very important part of a healthy ecosystem. When a company grows to 10 employees, they shouldn't be in an incubator. They're their own company. When they grow to 50 employees, they definitely own their space. And then as they continue to grow, you want a space to grow with your company. So it's important to have flexible lab spaces where you can maybe start out with your rents with 15 to 20 people and then grow to 100 employees, but not have to constantly change buildings or build your own building. So flexible levels of lab space at all levels are important. So more specifically about what IndieBio does, every 6 months we take 15 new companies. Those companies receive $250,000 in funding, and for the first 90 days we do intense coaching, business plan development, panels, introduction to mentors, and help them understand more about being a company. At the end of the 90 days, or more likely it's like 100 some days, the teams get together and do a presentation called Demo Day. We'll get 100 investors and about 30 to 50 journalists in one room and have each company do a small presentation, about 10 minutes, to these investors. In our room last year, I believe we had almost 40 billion in capital. This is 40 billion in venture capital investment looking for opportunities. So this demo day really is a huge opportunity for these companies to shine or fail. In 90 days, you need to know what you're doing, and that's how an accelerator works. An incubator, you can grow it as long as you want until you get it to work. But our idea is you should figure out quickly what you're doing. IndieBio applications are open now. Our deadline is December 15th. If anybody has an idea, please feel free to apply. Our companies vary. Research tools, food, synthetic biology, protein engineering, data and biology, genetics, the brain. We invest in almost anything. We rarely invest in drug development because it's a very long cycle. It's hard to accelerate getting approval from the FDA. But you can, with synthetic biology and biohacking and glowing plant, accelerate a lot of things with the right support, equipment, and teams. The application is very simple. When I was starting other companies, I'd spend time writing grants, 30 pages. We do not believe that a 30-page grant is the way to find the best possible team. So our process is pretty simple. In 1 hour, you can probably fill out the form. You need to know your technology and your market. One of the most important things about any startup is market. Cost is the worst reason to create a new product. You want to create a product somebody needs, not something they want. Yes, I would like to buy my iPhone for $10 less, but I'll probably always buy an iPhone from Apple, not from somewhere else. But if a new product comes out that I've never used before, or solves a problem I've never had solved, you will not have to build a large sales force. You will start to sell your product, and people will want it. And they'll need it. It makes it much easier. So when you think of your market, don't think you can make something slightly better or iterative. A lot of times, startup companies say, "Oh, you pay $100 for this chip or this device. I can make it for 50 or 10." But once you add in all the other costs of building a business, it's not that close. And to get a customer to change is very hard. We typically fund teams, not solo founders. As I talked about needing support or biohacking groups, it's really important to find like-minded people to help support you. Because when you're having trouble writing something or trouble growing your company, it's important to have that support network, which is why multiple founders do significantly better than solo founders. Strong ideas make strong teams. And once again, most of the companies at IndieBio, this is their first time. Never be afraid to take a chance and try to start your own company. We give the companies enough money and enough support that we believe we can make them succeed. And even if they fail, the amount of information they learn from our program is exceptional, and the connections they make. Some of the companies that have failed have actually joined other successful companies because the co-founders at different companies liked each other so much, they're like, your company failed, but we want to hire you, we like you. Our first class was 12 companies from all over the world. We had companies from London, Brazil, Taiwan. So we definitely fund companies from around the world. It's not just local San Francisco companies. Of these companies, only 7 of the 12 companies only had a paper plan. They had no experiments. I think it's important to realize that from this academic literature and the experiences you have, you can take a great idea that nobody has applied, and if you know that you can take that idea and do those experiments, a paper idea can make a company, but you need to know that market and you need to have a good plan. 6 of our companies from our first class have had follow-up funding. I believe that as our program grows and we understand people better, that this number will continue to improve to 80 or 90% of our companies seeing follow-on funding.
So that was last year?
Last year. Well, this was in spring. This class started in January, and then our most recent class started in September. So the September, I'll get to the September class. One of the most successful companies was Clara Foods. I've done lots of startups. This is not an idea I would have had. They have been very successful. So Clara Foods is animal-free egg whites. I prefer my egg from a chicken, but there's a very large industry for egg whites by the kilogram, whether it be bakers or pasta makers. So there's a range of large food companies that purchase egg whites. They don't care about the egg. Yeast can be engineered to make the majority of the proteins in an egg white. It's not an extremely complex matter. But as you begin to engineer these egg proteins, you have the option or the ability to now create an egg white that has better properties. Everybody here who's baked something knows that sometimes it rises too much, too little. Adjusting the amount of egg protein in different food or the types of protein and mixtures can greatly improve the quality of some of these foods. They started with a paper idea, and before the class even ended on demo day, had 6 or 7 different prototypes of their mixtures and already secured funding, because when you make a prototype, you show somebody that your paper plan is real, you will get investment. People who reach milestones and are productive find follow-on funding. The second class of companies also has a mixture of food companies. There's vegan gelatin, which the market there is candy, and a lot of products use gelatin, but there is no good vegan example of gelatin. So it might seem like a small market, but when you actually do the research, you find out the size of these markets are much larger and unmet. There's no one making that option. Memphis Meats is a cultured meat company. New Wave Foods is creating sustainable foods, focusing first on shrimp, but also on things like shark fin or species that have been overfished and cannot be sustainably grown as the future moves on. Many of you may have heard of the company Theranos. They are valued at $8 billion, but people say their technology is not sure they work. So one of the companies we invested in is in the same space. They do a point-of-care blood testing device. So single prick of blood, 50 different tests. The whole idea there is if you can test a prick of blood at any pharmacy or any local place, you can get more valuable information immediately to the consumer. Ambient was an interesting company, bioengineered rhino horn. They believed that if you make engineered rhino horn, you can end the rhino trade. When this company made their announcement on demo day, they were the 8th most shared article on Reddit, and it had over 300 written articles within a week. So the amount of publicity you get from demo day or sharing a created real product can be huge. Some of the other companies were ABioBot, Arcturus BioCloud. Genomics, Simulcad. I'm just going to kind of skip by. This is our second class of companies. Some of the other ones, acne treatments, brain chip for neuronal computing, T-cell sequencing, DNA synthesis, gene therapy without viruses. The whole idea is we invest in a lot of different ideas. There's a lot of different solutions to biological problems, and we see that. And we see that traditionally, a lot of venture funding is focused on drugs or medical devices, but there's all these areas that need the support. So, what makes a good startup? Do what you know. Whatever your background is, take advantage of that. Understand your market or customer. It is never too early to talk to your customer. If you have an idea right now, make up a fake company name and start calling people that you think you would sell to. Ask them questions, you'll get information. If you don't ask those questions, you will make a product no one wants, which is never good. So always talk to your customers as early as possible. Great ideas oftentimes come from what you work with regularly. If you're in your lab or in your life and see something you want, that can sometimes be the best possible product. Instead of trying to be too creative, think of that thing that you need or that you want. Oftentimes, some of the best lab equipment invented is because somebody made that equipment because they were tired of doing 3 other steps. Why is IndieBio right for you? In 4 months, you have a chance to change the world and change yourself. 250,000 more reasons. Most amazing thing I've seen about IndieBio is when you have 15 teams, all starting companies for the first time, they share information with each other. So the company doing gelatin and the company doing a brain on the chip, I would never expect to talk to each other, but they'll talk to each other all the time about different ideas or how they're growing things. So having that diversity of 30 extremely intelligent individuals all trying to grow a company together is a very exciting environment to be. So I guess is there any more kind of questions? I'll keep going on. I only think I have a few more slides, but I thought if there's any direct questions on IndieBio, I can answer those now.
How about the equity that you get from the service?
What?
The equity?
So typically it's about 8%, and then there's a note where it can increase up to about 12, depending on the next round of funding. So there's a primary 50,000 that's upfront plus lab, and then beyond that, it depends on how much money you raise later. But it cap at about 13 or 14%, I believe. So that's, but 8 is the starting amount that it ranks.
I have a question.
Sure.
What do you think is the reason that IndieBio is the first accelerator in this kind of startups? I mean, why no one before you?
So labs are expensive to build. There are hundreds of tech combinators, accelerators, YC Combinator. When you only need a small office space and computers is very easy, but spending $1 billion to build a lab, we had to find somebody. So even in Buenos Aires, when you try to create a new environment, it's very important to find people with money and belief that are going to fund it for the first year or two, because no one will know if it's going to work, and everyone will be afraid it'll fail. It's like Sean O'Sullivan, SOS Ventures, who backs IndieBio, believed in the idea. And so no matter how it went, he was going to take that risk and take that investment risk that, there was a need for an accelerator. So this is an important part of why some of these other combinators haven't done it, is they don't want to take that risk. And now that they've seen our model work, there's been a lot of talk of other people doing this, building out a lab, and starting to fund biotech companies, not just tech companies.
How is the process to pitch a project to IndieBio?
So fill out the application, and then we will email you back, and we set up a Skype time to talk to you and your team, and it's pretty much that simple. For any of you who've written a research grant, it's painful, so we try to make it simple.
You mentioned intellectual property, and sometimes in biotech startups it's a complaint from the investors?
Yeah, so part of the other need for accelerators and incubators is that if you stay in the university begins to own more and more of the IP or anything you develop. So once you become a company, you legally, for the most part, cannot stay within the university in the US, which is why people need to move out to these incubators or accelerators. Most of the universities, transfer offices, want to transfer their patents to companies and see that succeed. A few of them can be very frustrating on getting that out, but most of them realize that transferring that IP is better than nothing. The only time that IP or intellectual property is really dangerous when we're doing applications is if there's competing patents that are owned by trolls. Is anyone familiar with the term trolls? Patent trolls? It's people that buy patents and then wait to sue you a couple years later. So if we have a company that has a patent conflicting that's not at a university, that's a big concern. But if it's a patent at a university, we usually can work to find a license.
If it's the thing is like the intellectual property used to develop the idea, it's crossing under the academic, private, and trust.
If it covers all of them?
Yeah, it's different. It's kind of messy.
Yeah, it can be messy, but the other thing is there's a lot of ways to create trade secrets or create value without intellectual property. Sometimes people get too focused on their patents and less on proving it works. So, like with Clara Foods, they have patents they're writing, but their prototype raised them money, not their patents. When you prove that your technology or prove something's possible, most investors recognize that you can create IP around it, or if you're the first to market, that you have the lead advantage, and that your intellectual property is not your only strength.
And after these 90 days, and if the team could not achieve the goal, what happened to that team then?
So right now, we're trying to build a secondary lab space, but some of the goal is that after the 90 days, companies will be able to stay in the lab space and continue to try to reach that milestone. And we always have investors coming through, so probably 3 days a week, there'll be some investor who randomly calls us and wants to come visit our lab. So as companies, after demo day, stay in the lab, they'll still continue to meet investors and potential people to invest. So it's not you have one day to make your investment. You have multiple days from the start of the program to 2 months after the program. You will be meeting investors that are looking for put their money into work. The companies then that don't receive that money, some of them have went back to their universities or went back home and are still calling investors, or they'll occasionally fly back to San Francisco every 3 or 4 months. So they're still trying to get that money, and some of them have actually accomplished that. So if you can make enough progress, there's always still that hope of getting money. It's just determination. Don't give up. Yeah. And all of our teams, when they graduate, are welcome to come back and visit, work at a bench, ask for advice. We regularly see our teams, and we also have those teams talk and work with the new teams because they already have that experience of how not to talk to venture capitalists, for example, or what they made mistakes on and would recommend.
I have another question. Do you have any specific kind of relationship with universities? I mean, you talk that you have people coming from university, but do you have like a specific plan to contact them?
Yeah, so we don't have direct link to universities right now, but I've been traveling around to University of Wisconsin, Texas, visiting universities, and I'm working on a program called IndieBio University, which would be basically finding partner universities, and it would be a free program, and then whatever team was most successful in the program would get a chance to come visit on demo day, or have a chance to join the next class. So we're trying to work to have some of our material be more open to a larger number of teams, preferably partnering with specific universities where somebody there, a mentor or a kind of key person, can both track the teams.
Cada vez estamos más oscuros.
So we're trying to create an IndieBio with key universities or key mentors that help their own teams. Sometimes through business schools, sometimes through tech transfer offices. So we're developing that.
What is your relationship with university? Have any connections?
So there's 4 key members in IndieBio. One of them, Ryan, was, I believe, a board member there, but I think he stepped down because he's too busy, but he's a supporter there. Like Breakout Labs, the Peter Thiel Foundation, Singularity, there's a bunch of groups that we're friends and partners with. San Francisco is part of the reason why the Accelerator is in San Francisco is the number of kind of people that come through there and just visit. Is you meet all these people on some regular basis. It's interesting.
Does any of the companies you founded have taken off? I mean, are already profitable?
None are profitable because they started in February, so it's only been 9 months. But Clara Foods has made huge progress, and they're going to probably raise another round of funding, and they're finding a very positive environment for raising that next, sort of 10 million round. It's, so in a very short period of time, they've created that excitement and product level. So in the second class, as well as part of the first class, I think we'll know more in a year and a half or 2 years to what the trajectory is for some of these companies.
Are you thinking of starting an IndieBio Latin America or something?
So I get asked this at every university or place I visit, and now I just go with no. And the reason why is I think it's important for teams to visit an accelerator like ours and then go back to their community and build their own community. But I will never be able to bring the 40 billion in capital that visit my lab to Argentina or Latin America. These people, investors, are somewhat lazy. I mean, they'll cancel meetings to go golf, but they will stop and visit my lab, and they will visit the teams in my lab. So the connections that are made there, I can't rebuild that somewhere else, but we can build that network that people who've been there start to bring investors from San Francisco to other countries. So the idea of having a Latin America demo day, if we had, IndieBio, that would be interesting. But it's really hard to build the environment that I see in San Francisco and somewhere else. But creating those links, I think, is very valuable.
I have another question. Do you have any kind of connection with public funding?
So we occasionally do talks on SBIR grants. So the most common grant, is a small business innovation research grant. They get billions of grants a year in either $250,000 or $1.5 million. And this is to people directly at universities. So they can still be in university and receive these grants. A lot of our teams write these grants. We've not directly worked with them at all because they're huge. They're a government organization with thousands of employees. And in the future, I'm sure we'll partner with them more. But we've worked with DARPA. A lot of people from DARPA come talk at our space. So we have a couple of DARPA program managers who visited and give talks.
They have money.
They do. And I like the DARPA people are great. They are looking for creative ideas and energetic people. And so an accelerator or an incubator, when they see teams of excitement, it makes them excited.
I have another one, but I think that it would be better after this. Yeah.
Okay. So then I just kind of wanted to talk more about the general ecosystem or what I see as important. The biggest hurdle to any biotech company is showing proof of principle. Like I said, in the past you had to build out your own lab, which meant proof of principle cost millions of dollars. But biohacking, new tools, reduced costs, incubator spaces are all making it possible that if you can create that proof of principle data, it's making biotech more comparable to tech. The idea that biohacking does make sense. With a small amount of money, you can get that singular result that proves it's possible. Researchers in academia need access to public labs. Like we said, with intellectual property, there is a need to eventually move out of the university and control your own company and your own growth. Biohacking supports the networks. A lot of this, I think, we've kind of talked about. So the other thing is private grants, and whether you can live anywhere in Latin America or the US, there's a lot of private grant foundations like Breakout Labs or the Bill Gates Foundation, and I can't even think of the list of them, but there's a lot of private grants that are starting to become a more popular way to give $100,000 or $200,000 to researchers. And so if a researcher has a lab, and $100,000, you can do a lot of experiments to see if your idea is going to work. So the other thing is to just talk more about, what makes biohacking or incubators work. And one thing is a stable space. So you need to have funding for a year. So whether you can get help from the government or large pharma companies or healthcare companies, once you can get space for a year, or maybe a lab manager to help run it for a year, what will happen is the first few companies will come in, and then more companies will come in. And once you show that by having this space that there's demand, the resistance to creating a large incubator or your own environment becomes much easier. So a lot of people don't believe there's enough companies to fill this demand. So until you have that space and can have that year kind of to prove that it's real, and then at that point, even real estate companies start to become interested. If they can rent out part of their space and get it filled with new companies, they're interested in that. Donated common equipment is a big start. Whether this comes from labs going out of business or from current labs upgrading, anytime you can get things like -80 freezers and autoclaves, PCR machines, even common reagents like basic growth media for bacteria, these things add up very quickly, but anytime you can find donated or places going out of business, it's super valuable. Strong industry partners. There's successful companies in the healthcare or pharma industries here that if you find that right CEO or that right person high up in those companies, they will want to support the growth of this movement. They just need to know that it's real and that there's the demand. And once you kind of have that, you can partner with some of these companies. That'll make it more effective because government grants are great, but you need both private and public sector support because when things fluctuate in the government, you don't want everything to fail. And when private companies only want to provide space, but not necessarily grant money because, giving out cash is not a good business model. So that's where government grants are a great way to get the cash, but the businesses might be able to provide more stable lab spaces or more stable support. And then locating your strong universities or strong research parks. So this has been kind of common from all the cities I've visited. People talk about it is when you're adjacent or nearby an area that's known for research, it really helps out kind of giving you credibility as well as giving those people access to try something new without completely changing their life and moving to the other side of the city or moving to a new city. So take advantage of the environment you're in and find a space that's in the right location. Incubators versus accelerators. Incubators are cheap, small spaces where you can share benches. They're very valuable. You don't get a lot of business support or contact with investors. The advantage of accelerators is that you get more mentoring and more introduction to key professionals and investors. The disadvantage is in an accelerator you give up 5 to 12% of your company and 4 months of your life. Tech accelerators typically provide much less money. A lot of tech accelerators are more in the $20,000 to $50,000 range versus ours, which is quite large, $250,000. And I think that's most of what I had, other than just answering questions.
Does anybody have any question? Nope. Well, I have just one more.
Okay. I'm happy to stay around and talk a little.
Yeah, of course. No, well, then we leave the question for the small talk. That's it.
Thank you, everybody.
Now I'm going to try to connect with Don. Okay, Don Andres. He's going to present in Spanish. That's the idea. And of course, if Skype works. Otherwise, I don't know.
Otherwise, we have networking and that's it.
Sí, sí. Así que van a esperar un toque. Sí, me traen los parlantes. Tenemos un problema que los parlantes que yo traje para la presentación quedaron encerrados en un lugar. Yo ni siquiera te escucho.
Chicos, ¿qué tal? Me presento, mi nombre es Emiliano Gentile, soy biólogo también de exactas como Cami, y los que voy a contar, mientras que terminamos de ver si conseguimos unos parlantes que están encerrados en un aula, es que nosotros estamos gestando un grupo de gente que está haciendo BiohackingBA, que es un espacio de biohacking. La idea es que es abierto para biólogos, no biólogos, o sea, gente que gusta de lo bio, no importa del palo que venga. Y la idea es generar espacios como este. O sea, esto nació de ese grupo de personas, Cami y Manu son de ese equipo, y la idea es que se sumen los que quieran de ustedes a participar de esa actividad. La próxima actividad que tenemos es el 14 de diciembre, va a haber una charla sobre virus y hospedadores, y son charlas bien introductorias, bien básicas. La anterior fue de biología molecular en general. La idea es ir generando una masa crítica de gente de diferentes palos que se empodere el conocimiento biológico para emprender. Emprender puede ser algo que tenga un fin económico o un fin social, o lo que a ustedes se les ocurra. La idea es llenar este espacio y empezar a generar ecosistema, un poco de lo que hablaba Mark. O sea, ese grupo, esa masa crítica de gente con intereses afines para la construcción de una realidad distinta a la que tenemos ahora, donde el financiamiento está complicado, los espacios no existen. Entonces, es empezar a generar este tipo de eventos, de reuniones, de charlas o de desarrollo de un proyecto, y eso hacerlo en equipo. Entonces, los invitamos a los que quieran a sumarse. Los que hicieron por el Meetup lo pueden seguir a través del Meetup, la página de Meetup. Y si no, con la lista de mail que les pedimos, vamos a reenviarle alguna información. La idea es no ser invasivos ni mandarle más que un mail invitándolos a la próxima charla, y los que quieran, a partir de ahí se podrán sumar y seguir participando. Entonces, busquen BiohackingBA y ahí empléense y empecemos a trabajar para generar este ecosistema para que los que tengan una idea puedan llevarla adelante y empezar a crecer. Ahora llegamos a los $40 millones, pero hay que empezar a trabajar, y la idea es a partir de estos eventos que estamos teniendo. Sí, gracias por estos minutos.
Bueno, disculpa, tenemos un pequeño problema técnico, y es que traje los parlantes que quedaron encerrados en seguridad. Conseguimos la llave, tenemos los parlantes. Manu se olvidó de traer el mini plug a la RCA. Si alguien de casualidad salió de su casa con un mini plug, repito, mini plug, no. Encima del dispositivo del visual, pero es el final que tiene la parte del audio, que tiene la parte del audio. Porque si no, no se va a escuchar a Don. O sea, el juro que no están los parlantes. Así. Yo creo que se va a escuchar nada más. Si quieren, lo probamos. Si quieren, probamos.
Y ahí Y por
No, porque están hablando.
Sí, pero ahora no.
¿Es marginal? No, muy marginal. Bueno, gente, atención. Hay una razón principal por la cual yo no me voy a casar nunca, y que yo sé que mi boda va a ser un desastre, definitivamente. Me olvidé, como dije, traer el cable. Luego, una opción es romper un auricular de alguien que tenga ganas de romper su auricular. Tremendo. Para hacerlo me parece que no da, así que es una lástima porque a Don ya una vez lo clavamos, siempre con la mejor voluntad del mundo. Pero sinceramente recién probamos el audio y es... O sea...
¿Tienen parlantes? ¿Dónde ahora eso?
Esto.
Sí. ¿Se está escuchando de
Sí, está al máximo. Lo acabo de subir al volumen.
ok.
No, recién lo probamos. La verdad que es muy bajito el volumen, es una verdadera lástima. Pero disculpen, o sea, como un boludo me traje dos parlantes de una bicicleta y no traje mi plug. Ya está, esto va a pasar. No, pará, quiero decir algo. Quizás no funciona. No va a funcionar. ¿Saben qué? No va a funcionar. En el medio se me va a quemar la Mac. Tipo, chicos, o sea. Así que bueno, disculpen. Una cosa. Disculpen desde el fondo de mi corazón. Desde el fondo del corazón de todos los que estuvimos organizando este encuentro. Ahora tengo la difícil tarea de decirle a Don que...
¿No tiene parlantes en su propia computadora? No, dejaste tus parlantes regalados.
No, pero no es eso, no hay nadie en este momento en el Twitter
Nadie
visual.
vive en caseta.
Estamos nosotros.
Nadie vive en caseta, ¿no? Nadie vive en caseta.
¿Alguien quiere ir a buscar un mini plugger hacia su casa?
No se conectan.
¿O unos parlantes? Perdón, unos parlantes también. No, es así, necesitamos un parlante común y corriente para conectarlo acá. Pasa que las oficinas están cerradas.
Hay un tipo dando vueltas. No, pero no tienen. Ya consultamos.
Es el fantasma del distrito.
Podemos reprogramarla para la próxima.
O también la verdad es que si va a estar online podemos hacer un hangout en directo de él con un horario y que los que quieran se conectan y ya está. La idea era tenerlo acá porque empalmaba directamente con lo que había hablado Matt, pero bueno.
No te animás a pasar.
Bien para el día de los libros.
¿Cómo?
¿Cómo? Con pleno silencio.
El problema es que como estoy o sea, como está, miren, mi experiencia es que el audio de esto es una chotada y además si lo queremos ver a Don, aunque sea solamente queremos ver la cara, el audio sale de acá.
¿Y si solamente lo escuchamos?
Sí, yo creo mejor que, o sea, eso puede pasar, pero dado que él lo va a estar broadcasteando, que se tome 15 minutos en algún otro momento, ponemos la fecha y el que quiera lo consume y si no queda en la web.
Y lo que hacemos ahora es, bueno, hablar con
Sí,
Matt,
rompemos un poco de fila,
sí.
hablamos entre todos, nos damos un poco de amor biohacker para este fin medio choto que hubo y cerramos el evento. ¿Vale?
Antes queríamos agradecer, agradecimientos en orden.
Bueno, en primer lugar, de vuelta al Distrito Audiovisual, a la Universidad, porque nos prestó esto. En segundo lugar, a Karen del Instituto Baikal, que también nos ayudó con el flyer, lindo. A Matt por estar acá. A Emi, que se cargó al hombro las inscripciones. Ya tenemos los datos de todos ustedes para mandarles mails cuando queramos y invitarlos al próximo que sea que vayamos a hacer. Y a ¿quién más?
Bueno, a todos ustedes.
Y a todos ustedes por venir, por supuesto.
Y la idea es, como ya les dijo Emi, ¿no? Pero la idea es que estos espacios es bastante amorfo, estamos trabajando en esto, pero que se siga masificando, que se siga hablando un poco de biohacking, que se siga hablando de biología y que sigamos creciendo como espacio, como comunidad en Buenos Aires y en Argentina.
Sí, claro. So, this is over, unfortunately. Now you have the time to talk to Matt personally and ask him questions.
We have a game. He's going to hide somewhere in the building. Okay? And you have to find him. If you find him, he will give you all the money that he was talking about.
Che, pará.
Voy a dejar las tarjetitas acá.
Cami, ¿vas a hacer que no me roban los parlantes de afuera un segundo nomás? Yo agarro tu computadora para que no te...
Le prometimos una hamburguesa.
¿Cómo se llama? ¿Cuál era?
Iniciales, viste como Martín en los hizo.
Pude festejar mi cumpleaños en